All right, we got different facts about Apple, very interesting facts here that you probably didn't know about. So let's get into the video. Let me show you what these are. I guarantee you're gonna scratch your head on a few of them. All right, welcome back to my channel. So a lot of my stuff is about reviews, or I do a lot of technical stuff, but this one's more fun. So what I want to do is I want to share 12 different things about Apple, about their history, about things you just won't know about Apple. Maybe some things you're going to scratch your head on. Other things you might know a few of these, but I guarantee you're not going to know all of these. There's a couple ones in here really interesting. So I'm going to get into it, starting with why this little Apple symbol on the back doesn't glow anymore. But I'm going to go through 12 of them, so sit back, relax. It's a fun video. I'm going to share my screen on a few of them just to kind of show you some examples. Let's get into the video. Let's go. All right, so for the first one, it's a very common question. The little Apple logo. Everyone loved the glowing apple behind the MacBooks here. So if you look at this, it's dark. Obviously, the light's dark, but normally that would be glowing on some earlier models. You'd have a nice white light with the Apple symbol. So why did Apple get rid of that? There's actually 2 or 3 different reasons, to tell you the truth. The very first reason is when they made the 12-inch MacBook, it was actually the back of it, including the newer Airs too, it was just started to get too thin. So what was the problem with that? Well, the layer that actually shined the light through it could also have light come the other direction. So when you went out in the sun and you actually were working out in the sun could actually shine through that and cause some issues on the screen. So kind of a blooming effect on the screen. And that wasn't good for Apple's screen, so they had to get rid of it because the screen got too thin. All right, a second reason for that is, remember Foldgate with the phones, how everything was folding? Right around that time, Apple said, it's probably not a good idea to have that happen with the MacBooks. So when you cut out a little portion of that on a really, really thin back, you know how thin this is, the structural integrity actually gets a little bit messed up, so it's easier to bend that back end. And they didn't want that to happen twice, so they got rid of it as well. And then the final third reason for that is they just wanted to match their phones and all the devices so that not just one was glowing and the others weren't. And that was kind of a decision they came with, so everything was universal across the brand. All right, the second one is the Apple logo. You know, it was quite different when it actually launched Apple way back in the 70s. It was actually a picture, and I'll show you up here. It's really interesting. It's actually Sir Isaac Newton underneath an apple tree. So I guess that's where the apple came from. I guess Steve Jobs liked apples too. It was one of his favorite fruits. But that's actually where the original, kind of the original logo was right there. You can see it. And then it switched to this iconic Apple icon right now. All right, number 3, Tony Fadell. He was the one that came out with the iPad, and believe it or not, he pitched this to Real Networks and actually Philips Electronics first. They didn't want it, and then Apple picked it up, the idea of having kind of an iPad device, and the rest is history. So that's the guy that actually thought of it. He tried to sell it to a couple different places first. They didn't want it, so Apple, while it's iconic now, they aren't the ones that really came up with it. It's basically this guy that tried to sell it to Philips first. Number 4. Apple actually got saved by Microsoft in 1997. Not exactly saved, but Microsoft actually, Bill Gates invested $150 million into Apple. Why would he do that? It wasn't all for just being, it wasn't being friendly, let's put it that way. Number 1, he obviously wanted, some competition that's in the actual field so that he wasn't becoming a monopoly. That was number 1, but there were some other reasons for it as well. He also worked out a deal with Steve Jobs to do Internet Explorer. He actually added the browser into the Apple ecosystem there for 5 years minimum. So he got that deal out of it as well. And then the final reason this wasn't done for free is there was a lawsuit against Microsoft that, Microsoft actually copied Apple's operating system as far as the design and stuff like that. And they agreed to drop it with that investment of the $150 million. So you can see that it's not always for the right reasons. So Microsoft did invest in Apple, and look what happened. It just kind of launched them off the launch pad. They're not looking back now. There was 3 different people that started Apple. Ronald Wayne was one of them, the person you never hear about. And then there was Steve Wozniak, obviously, and Steve Jobs. The guy that actually I just talked about, he wanted to get out early. He got out at around 12 days after they started the company. I think he sold his shares. He had I think 20 or 30% of the company for around like $2,000, $2,500, and he got out after 12 days. If he would have kept his money and his shares and this whole time, it would have been worth over $100 billion. They estimate $100 billion with a B, not an M, a B. So is he kicking himself? Well, they interviewed him recently, and he said he wasn't too worked up about it. He has another job that he did fairly well on, but inside it's killing him, right? It would be killing me. All right, the first Apple I computer in 1976 sold for $666.66. A lot of people you'll hear say, oh, that's a satanic or some kind of crazy thing going on there, 666 and stuff like that. It isn't. It's actually Steve Wozniak, his brain, the way it works. he liked repeating numbers. You know, he's a mathematician, of course, and that's why he picked the price like that. I'm not sure why he picked the sixes instead of maybe 699.99 or whatever. Who knows? But that's what he did. All right, 9:41. What does that time mean? 9:41 a.m. If you look at a lot of ads going way back for the iPhone, you're going to notice that the time on almost all the iPhones is 9:41. It's always the same, a.m. Why is that? I mean, I'll show you some examples right here. The fact is actually that's the exact time that Steve Jobs launched the iPhone in 2007. So he wanted to keep that as a marketing kind of like, I guess you call it an Easter egg or something. So I've seen it a couple times where it's not like that, but I would say 95% of the time on all their ads and everything else, it does say that time. So I'm not sure why it's different on just a few small parts of them, maybe changing ownership lately and stuff like that. But anyways, it's still on their current website, so check it out. All right, this one's kind of obscure. I can't find a ton of information on it, but supposedly Apple does not, they won't provide the same warranty. It says somewhere in their warranty that you can't smoke around the device. So anyways, I heard that a bunch of different places. People confirm it, that actually in their terms and conditions, it voids the warranty, I guess, if you smoke around it. I don't think they've ever applied that though, so you're pretty safe. I mean, I don't know how they could even prove it. Plus, if you watch some of my other videos, these things smell when they come out of the box anyway. Mine smelled like chemicals, so who knows? But I just thought that was kind of funny. In 1983, Apple launched a line of computers called Lisa, and it was a total failure. So the Lisa line of computers, you can look it up on Wikipedia and stuff like that. But the rumor is they have about 2,700 of those units buried somewhere in Utah in a landfill. And what those are worth now, because they're very rare and hard to find right now, if you can find out what landfill and where those are, it could be a gold mine. All right, so Apple, based on GDP only, would be the 28th biggest country if you kind of took their revenue versus GDP of other countries. So it's going to be like, it could change obviously depending on when you watch this, but let's just say the 27th, the 29th biggest country in the world as far as GDP. So if you think they're making a lot of money and you think they're maybe making too much money, here's some facts, but it's a pretty big company. I bet you didn't know that Apple tried a bunch of different things back in the day. Number one, they created a video console game, so a gaming device actually. It's called the Apple Pippin. So I'll have some pictures here, but it's kind of crazy. Check that out. It was on Linus Tech Tips, I guess, as well a long time ago, but you can check out, he did a huge review of it. But it's interesting that they actually got into gaming already, and they also did a clothing line, which is crazy. So they started a clothing line. Of course, that failed as well. I mean, obviously you can buy Apple stuff on, just from Chinese manufacturers and stuff, but they had their own clothing line and they wanted to start that. Didn't work out too well for them, so thank God they stuck with electronics. The last one's kind of funny. So if you know, Apple and Samsung are always competing, especially on phones. Samsung actually makes almost all of Apple's screens, LED screens and things like that, or really the Retina screens is what they make. So it's kind of interesting that the direct competition is making their screens. So if there's ever an issue with the screen in the future, you might have to look a little deeper into to see what the cause was. All right, well, that's it. I'm going to wrap it up. So those are some facts, 12 or 13 of them, that are actually pretty cool, right? They're interesting. I don't think you knew all of them. Put in the comments which ones you know about, and if you know of any other ones that are interesting. I know there's hundreds of them out there. Just a fun video. I know some people are going to hate this because they're Microsoft fans, and other people might like it a little bit more. It's just something to have some fun with around the holidays, around in America. Obviously, it's Thanksgiving time right now. So anyways, have some fun with it. Let me know in the comments what you think. And anyways, like always, I'll be right back with you in a couple days here, making some better, hopefully better videos every day and making more of them. So support the channel, subscribe if you can. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.